We've covered a lot of ground in this module: data privacy and security risks, legal considerations around IP and liability, the regulatory landscape including the EU AI Act, and ethical frameworks for responsible AI. Now it's time to bring it all together into something practical: building internal AI policies and governance for your organization. This lecture is about turning principles into practice. I'll give you a framework for building AI governance that's comprehensive enough to address the real risks, but practical enough to actually implement. Before we dive into the how, let's be clear about the why. AI governance isn't bureaucracy for its own sake. It serves three essential purposes. First, risk management. Good governance helps you identify, assess, and mitigate the risks we've discussed throughout this module: data breaches, legal liability, regulatory violations, reputational damage. It's your systemic approach to not ending up as a cautionary tale. Second, enabling adoption. Counterintuitively, governance enables faster AI adoption, not slower. When people know what's allowed and what isn't, when there are clear pathways for approval, when concerns can be addressed systematically, adoption accelerates. Ambiguity slows things down. Clarity speeds them up. Third, building trust. Customers, employees, regulators, and the public are increasingly asking questions about how organizations use AI. Having clear governance and being able to demonstrate it builds the trust that sustainable AI adoption requires. Let's look at the four-pillar framework: policies, processes, people, and technology. Each pillar is necessary. None is sufficient alone. Pillar 1. Policies. Policies are the documented rules that govern AI use in your organization. They should be clear, accessible, and practical. Let me walk you through the key policies you need. Acceptable use policy. This is foundation. It defines what AI tools are approved, what they can be used for, and what's prohibited. It should specify which data can be used with AI systems, and crucially, which data cannot. It should address both enterprise-provided tools and the use of external AI services. A good, acceptable use policy answers practical questions your employees actually have. Can I use ChatGPT to help draft an email? Can I upload this customer data to an AI tool? What if I want to try a new AI service I found? Make it specific enough to be useful, but not so detailed that it becomes outdated the moment a new tool emerges. Data classification and handling. This policy, which may already exist in your organization, needs to address AI specifically. Which data categories can be used with which AI system? What approvals are required? What safeguards must be in place? This connects directly to our data privacy discussion in the previous lecture. AI procurement standards. Before your organization adopts a new AI tool or vendor, what requirements must be met? This should cover security assessments, data handling terms, contractual requirements, and compliance verification. It prevents shadow AI by providing a clear pathway for legitimate adoption. AI development guidelines. If your organization builds or customizes AI systems, you need guidelines covering data sourcing, bias testing, documentation requirements, and deployment criteria. Even if you primarily buy rather than build, you may need guidelines for how you configure and fine-tune purchased solutions. Incident response procedures. What happens when something goes wrong? Who needs to be notified? What steps should be taken? Having this defined before an incident occurs is essential. You don't want to be figuring out your response while a crisis is unfolding. Pillar 2. Processes. Policies define what should happen. Processes define how it happens. These are the workflows and procedures that operationalize your policies. Risk assessment process. Before deploying an AI system, especially one that will affect customers, employees, or significant decisions, you should assess its risks. This doesn't need to be onerous for low-risk applications, but it should be thorough for high-stakes ones. consider using the EU AI Act risk categories as a framework, even if you're not directly subject to the regulation. A simple risk assessment asks, what could go wrong? How likely is it? How severe would the impact be? What safeguards are in place? Who needs to approve this? Approval workflow. Who approves AI deployments and under what circumstances? This should be proportionate to risk. A team using an approved tool for low-sensitive work shouldn't need executive sign-off. But deploying AI in customer-facing decisions should involve appropriate oversight. Define the levels and make them clear. Monitoring and review process. AI systems don't remain static. Models drift, data changes, business context evolves. You need processes for ongoing monitoring, checking that AI systems continue to perform as expected, and periodic review to assess whether they're still appropriate. Feedback and escalation process. How do employees report concerns about AI systems? How do affected parties raise issues? There should be clear channels that people actually know about and feel safe using. And there should be clear escalation paths when concerns are raised. Vendor management process. If you're using third-party AI tools, you need processes for evaluating vendors, negotiating appropriate terms, and monitoring their ongoing compliance with your requirements. Pillar 3. People. Policies and processes are only as good as the people implementing them. The people pillar is about roles, responsibilities, and capabilities. Clear ownership. Who owns AI governance in your organization? This doesn't necessarily require a new role. In smaller organizations, it might be an additional responsibility for an existing leader. But someone needs to be accountable for ensuring that governance functions effectively. Governance without an owner tends to drift. In larger organizations, you might consider an AI governance committee or council that brings together stakeholders from IT, legal, compliance, HR, and business units. This ensures diverse perspectives and shared ownership. Defined roles. Beyond the overall owner, clarify who does what, who conducts risk assessments, who approves deployments, who monitors ongoing performance, who responds to incidents. These responsibilities should be explicitly assigned, not assumed. Training and awareness. Everyone in your organization who uses AI, which increasingly means everyone, needs to understand the basics of responsible use. This includes your acceptable use policy, how to handle data appropriately, and where to go with questions or concerns. Leaders need deeper understanding to provide effective oversight. Skills development. Beyond awareness, consider what skills your organization needs to govern AI effectively. This might include technical skills for evaluation and monitoring, legal and compliance expertise, and domain expertise to assess AI applications in specific business contexts. Pillar 4. Technology. The final pillar is the technical infrastructure that supports governance. This is about using technology to enable and enforce good practices. Approved tool provisioning. Make approved AI tools easily accessible. If people have to jump through hoops to use sanctioned tools, they find unsanctioned alternatives. Enterprise accounts with appropriate data protections should be available to those who need them. Access controls. Ensure that access to AI systems is appropriately controlled and logged. Integration with your identity management systems allows you to manage who can use what and maintains audit trails. Monitoring tools. Depending on your scale and risk profile, you may want tools that monitor AI usage, flag potential policy violations, or detect anomalies. The market for AI governance tools is still maturing, but options are emerging. Documentation systems. Governance generates documentation, risk assessments, approvals, audit records. You need systems to create, store, and retrieve this documentation effectively. This supports both ongoing governance and regulatory compliance. 4 pillars with multiple components under each. They can feel overwhelming. Let me give you practical guidance on implementation. Don't try to build comprehensive governance overnight. Take a phased approach. Phase 1. Foundation. Start with the essentials. Create a basic, acceptable use policy. Identify approved tools with appropriate data protections. Assign someone to own AI governance, even if it's a partial responsibility. Train people on the basics. This gives you a foundation to build on and addresses the most immediate risks. Phase 2. Structure. Build out your processes. Implement risk assessments for new AI initiatives. Create approval workflows proportionate to risk. Establish feedback channels. Develop incident response procedures. This creates the operational structure for governance. Phase 3. Maturity. Refine and expand. Add monitoring capabilities. Develop more sophisticated risk assessment for high-stake applications. Build a governance committee if your scale warrants it. Create comprehensive documentation. And conduct regular audits and reviews. The pace of this progression depends on your organization's size, risk profile, and AI ambitions. A small company with limited AI use might stay in phase 1 for quite a while. A large organization deploying AI in high-stakes contexts needs to move to phase 3 relatively quickly. Let me share some practical tips. Start with what you have. You likely already have policies for data handling, information security and technology procurement, and vendor management. AI governance doesn't need to reinvent these, it needs to extend them. Use existing frameworks as your foundation. Make policies findable and readable. The best policy in the world is useless if no one can find it or understand it. Put your AI policies where people will actually look. Write them in plain language. Create quick reference guides for common questions. Build for change. AI is evolving rapidly. Your governance framework needs to evolve with it. Build in regular review cycles. Design policies that can adapt without complete rewrites. Focus on principles that endure, with implementation details that can be updated. Balance control with enablement. Governance that's purely about control will be circumvented. People need to feel that governance helps them use AI effectively, not just restrict them. Every node should be accompanied by a "here's what you can do instead." Learn from incidents. When things go wrong, and they will, treat it as a learning opportunity. What does this tell you about gaps in your governance? How can you improve? A no-blame culture of continuous improvement is more effective than a punitive approach. Let me close this lecture and this module with a thought about the bigger picture. AI governance isn't a one-time project. It's an ongoing capability. As AI becomes more embedded in your operations, as regulations evolve, as new risks and opportunities emerge, your governance needs to evolve too. The organizations that succeed with AI long-term will be those that build this capability and commit to maintaining it. But here's the encouraging news. You don't need to have everything figured out to start. Start with the foundation. Build as you go. Learn from experience. Every organization's AI governance journey is different, but every journey starts with a decision to take it seriously. That brings us to the end of Module 4. We've covered data privacy and security, legal considerations, regulatory requirements, ethical frameworks, and now governance. You have the knowledge to manage AI risks thoughtfully and the frameworks to build the capabilities your organization needs. In Module 5, we shift to building your AI strategy, moving from understanding and risk management to creating a roadmap for AI adoption that's tailored to your organization. I'll see you there.